Hello and welcome to the Tough Cover Radio Show. Let me talk to you.
Yeah.
It is a big day here at the Gambler. Huge day here at the Gambler. And usually when I say that, you're thinking, oh, are the Phillies in the playoffs? Are they in a playoff run? Oh, are the Eagles? Is there a big Eagles game coming up? Oh, are the Sixers imploding the stadium and burning Franklin E. Dog at the stake? No, none of those things. Has nothing to do with Philadelphia sports is why it's a big day at the Gambler. It's a big day at the Gambler because it's Summerslam Saturday.
Yeah.
It is a big day on the wrestling calendar. Third biggest day of the year, Jeremy?
I think that's fair.
Third biggest day of the year on the wrestling calendar. And
some might say second.
Yeah.
Some.
No, it's not. It's third.
Not to me.
It's
not
third.
to me.
Yeah.
But some may say second.
It's
biggest
third.
Party of the summer.
Biggest party of the summer.
Come on now.
SummerSlam 2023. Really fun card tonight. We have a lot to get to talking about SummerSlam. This is your official Tough Cover Radio Show SummerSlam preview. I tweeted earlier in the week, should I make this week's show the official fantasy football spectacular preview of the Tough Cover Radio Show? I remembered it's SummerSlam. I can't be doing that. That's next week. Next week, we will be doing the official fantasy football preview show here on the Tough Cover Radio Show.
You do not want to miss that one.
That'll be fun. I'll be cramming for that all week. But this week, SummerSlam preview, and also we'll talk about the Phillies, I guess. We'll talk about the Phillies. And we'll talk about MLB picks. Obviously, 12 o'clock, me and Jeremy make you some money. I was on a heater this week, Jeremy. An absolute heater. And then yesterday, I got smacked in the face.
Oh.
Not a great day yesterday. But didn't give it all back or anything. We still, we're still up for the week. But, man, nothing like a crappy Friday night with a Phillies loss and going like 2-9 on your picks. Not pleasant. So that's where I was yesterday. And also like 3 of those losses, like lost by, a run.
Yeah.
Or lost by a half a run. Like just brutal.
How it works.
But let's start out the show at 11:20, bringing on Nick Picone. I like that from Jeremy.
That's spicy.
Get your popcorn ready. Nick
Love
Picone.
it.
It's funny. So I always say that, like, when I bring Nick Picone on, and Nick Picone's like my frenemy, is how I describe him. Like, I love Nick Picone, but me and him go at it on Twitter. And I always think when I bring Nick Picone on, like, oh, here we go, we're gonna yell at each other, and it always ends up being like way more civil. We always end up being way closer in actual opinion. When we both take a little bit of the shtick off. I think that we end up being closer in opinion than you'd believe. But today, it could get contentious. Bad loss last night, so I'm sure Nick Picone's upset. I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. It's probably one of the most upsetting losses of the season for me, and I'll get into some of the reasons why. But 11:20 Nick Picone, and obviously, if we're bringing Nick Picone on, we're talking some wrestling as well. So we're getting into some wrestling with him for sure. And at 12:20, we got John Jansen coming on. Same thing. We'll talk some Phillies. We'll talk some wrestling. Maybe we'll even talk some football as well. At 12 o'clock, we are going to give out our MLB picks as always. And at 11:45-ish, me and Jeremy are going to do a new segment. It's called the Immaculate segment. We're filling out our Immaculate grid live on air. So that's going to be fun. But let's start it off here. Let's talk a little bit about the Phillies. Let's talk about last night. I have obviously been the most positive, optimist Phillies fan that there is on Phillies Twitter. And that has upset a large portion of the fan base. And part of that's my own fault. Like I would say that probably not the best way to get positive engagement from a fan base is telling them how overreactionary and stupid they are so often. Like it's probably something I need to work on, but I get upset, like it just reminds me of when Jimmy Rollins correctly called this fan base lovable front runners. He said they're front runners. I love them, but they're front runners. And we got really upset about that 15, 20. I'm old, man. That's like 16 years ago. I think he said that, like 2007-ish.
Yeah,
so,
right around there.
So as a long time ago, he said that, but people got really upset about that. They were calling the radio stations. They were emailing and posting on message boards. I guess that's what you probably, MySpace. Is that what you were doing back in 2007? That's where people got upset.
You don't know how old I was 2007.
I don't. I definitely don't. I definitely don't. I was 11, so I'm sure you were. Yeah,
5.
Jesus, that makes me feel so old.
Yeah.
But people were upset about that. He was absolutely correct. This fan base loves to love when you're doing great, and I think they love to hate when you're doing bad even more. But I'll hold off on that for today because, and part of the reason that I'm reflecting on this and saying maybe I should stop doing this, because I think Phillies fans actually didn't jump off a cliff last night, even with a terrible loss. It felt like there was just as much talk about the Trey Turner standing ovation as there was about the loss after the game and Trey Turner's post-game comments. So I'll give Phillies fans credit. I'll give Nick Picone credit. I'll give all the people that I argue with on Twitter about the term Negadelphians and the positives and negatives of this specific Phillies team. And I'll say that I think that we handled the loss well last night. My problem is I think this team still, even after last night, I think they're probably going to win 91 games, 92 games, maybe 90 games. I think they're going to win in the range of 89 to 93 games if you play out the same pace that they've been playing out since about April 12th, and especially since about June 1st. I think they're probably going to win in that lower 90 tier of games. That's going to be enough to get them in the playoffs. I'm very confident in saying that. My point is, if this team goes 92 and 70, we can't jump off a cliff 70 times. We can't do the Chicken Little Sky is Falling thing 70 times. We can't do it. It's just stupid. What's the point of following sports if that's the way you're going to do it? I don't understand it. It's not the Eagles. It's not a 17-game season. So that's what I'd say. But I don't think we did that last night. I think even with a bad loss, I think people said, you know what? It's going to be fine. Everyone else in the race lost. And that's what I wanted to bring that up. Besides the Giants, by the way, who can someone tell Gabe Kapler that this team's not good? Like, the Giants don't have a good roster.
No.
Stop winning.
Yeah.
Like,
That's Gabe Kapler for you.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I will just say, feed me the Giants in a wild card series. Would absolutely
100%.
would love to see it.
I think that if there's anyone you'd want to face, I think the Giants are the team.
They're up there for sure.
Mhm.
They're definitely up there.
For sure.
But you look at the rest of the wild card standings. So the Giants are the first wild card at 61 and 49. They've won 3 straight games. We are currently the second wild card at 59 and 51. That's a game up on the third wild card, the Cincinnati Reds, who are sitting there. So the Phillies have obviously lost 1 in a row. Let's just talk about the losing streak.
1 in a row.
I know. It's unacceptable. But the streak column on the standings. Giants win 3 in a row. That's concerning. They're going to set themselves in a spot where they're probably going to make the playoffs at this point, San Francisco. So whatever. But look at the Phillies. They've lost 1 in a row. The Reds right behind them, who are in the third wild card spot, they've lost 4 in a row. The Marlins right behind them sitting a half game out of the wild card. They've lost 2 in a row. A game and a half out, the Arizona Diamondbacks are falling apart. They've lost 4 in a row. They're like 5 and 12 in the last 17 or something like that.
The frauds are showing.
The Chicago Cubs, they finally played a good team yesterday. Braves won 8-0. They did really well against their fellow NL Central teams. People got really high on the Cubs there for a bit. They are plus 71 in run differential, which is insane.
That is insane.
It's insane. At their record, which is 56 and 54, that's insane. But they lost yesterday to the Braves. You look at the San Diego Padres, 54 and 56. By the way, their run differential plus 70 as well.
Wow.
They also lost yesterday. The Mets, I mean, we don't even have to mention them. They've lost 4 in a row. All of these teams are not separating themselves at all. And something I've heard is like, oh, the NL was down last year, and that's why the Phillies were able to back into the playoffs. That's why the Phillies were able to sneak in. The Phillies won 87 games last year. Right now, the third wild card, the Cincinnati Reds, their winning percentage is .527. If you extrapolated that over 162 games, that's 85 wins. So right now, an 85 win pace is getting the third wild card. 87 wins is what the Phillies had last year, and they're on pace for better than that right now. So just wanted to, say all that and say, hey, Goose Fraba, we're not freaking out, though. And I think more than that, let's get to the main conversation from last night before we have Nick Picone on. And I could be wrong. I didn't follow this that closely. I know there were plenty of people who jumped in on the trends. Am I incorrect in saying that I'm going to ask him at the break, did Nick Picone start the standing ovation for Trey Turner thing?
I'm not sure.
I feel like he was the first person I saw talk about it.
I saw someone else that's not going to be named, but
I think I know who you're talking about, but I think that was after. I could be wrong.
It may have been, and we'll ask Nick. It might be him.
I thought if he didn't organize it, he was definitely one of the biggest proponents of it.
I know that.
And one of the biggest people kind of talking about it. So we're going to talk about that. I was about as 50-50 on it as you could possibly imagine, which is funny because I come on here and Sean Brace said I am the official takesman at the Gambler. So that's something I need to like put on my resume. Official takesman of the Gambler. Also the head coach of the Tough Cover Radio Show, as Sean Brace would say. So I am the head coach of the Tough Cover Radio Show. I am the official takesman of the Gambler, but the head coach here and the takesman doesn't have a take here on this Trey Turner thing. The thing I'd say is I see both sides. I see, obviously, after Trey Turner cost us that game in the field at shortstop the other night.
That was rough.
The quotes he gave after the game, he looked absolutely despondent. He looked like a broken man. He looked like a guy who needed some help in every department. And if we want to think that cheering for him uplifts him a little bit, makes him feel like he has to press a little bit less, makes him feel a little bit less worried about what's going on and how people are viewing him. I don't know if any of that's helping. I don't know if any of that's true. I have no idea what Trey Turner's psyche is like. All I know is that press conference was depressing.
Very.
And I understand and I empathize with the Phillies fans, and I admire the Phillies fans who stepped up and said, let's let him know we're behind him. Let's let him know that we have his back. And I appreciate that. And Trey Turner obviously appreciated it. He came after the game and he said that was really effing cool. And it was cool to hear Trey Turner, express his kind of appreciation for that. So I definitely see all the positives in it. I will say the boomers in my life and some of the others in my life have expressed to me the other side, and I do understand how I think it's a little bit fake. I think we're looking a little bit fake. It's a little bit phony. It's a little bit performative. It's a little bit like, hey, just because I get mad 75 times a year on Twitter, I'm still a big fan. Like,
yeah.
There's still there's a little fakeness, there's a little bit of phoniness. Like, I don't know what the right answer is. If I was there, I probably would have clapped.
Oh yeah, if I was there, 100%.
I wouldn't have booed. Like, I probably would have clapped. But if you struck out, I'd probably throw a boo out there. I'm not against booing, and people would be shocked by that because I'm Mr. like, you Philly fans are too negative. I think the simple boo, like, I don't think that's as bad as like tweeting fervently how much you hate a player.
You have also said before that when you get into that stadium, you turn into a Negadelphian.
I do. It gets into my veins. It gets into my bloodstream.
It's seeping.
So with all that said, let's take a break and let's get it over to Nick Picone. And you can follow Nick Picone on Twitter, by the way. I wanted to give him a plug because he's so good at Twitter. @_Picone, or so good at X, I guess. He's a really good Xer. He's a really good follow on X, a really good X profile.
He's really good at reposting things. Oh God, how horrible did that sound?
Awful. It's a nightmare. But yeah, we're gonna have Picone on. He's great for the Fransky radio calls. He's great for the opposing team radio calls, the opposing TV calls. He's also great as a follow on there. And this Trey Turner stuff was a really fun follow. So go and give him a follow. And on the other side, we're gonna talk to him about all that and more. Of course, it's SummerSlam, baby. So keep it locked to the Tough Cover Radio Show. Let me talk to you. Yeah.
Our iHeartRadio music
Welcome back to the Tough Cover radio show. I had to jam out there for a little bit. If I'm gonna do Cody Rhodes, if I'm gonna put that on, I got to do the whole gimmick. I got to do the whole shtick. Jeremy said it to me off air. He's working on something over there, so I won't ask him his opinion. But he said it is the best current wrestling theme song. I think that's true. I think it's true. I mean, that moment that he had at Mania coming back, not this year, but last year against Seth when he came out to this song and they kept it from AEW, an absolute all-time moment there for Cody Rhodes. So we're going to be talking SummerSlam with Nick Picone right when we get him on the phone. We had him and then we lost him there. But we're going to be talking Phillies. We're going to be talking all things SummerSlam. And real quick, before we get to Nick Picone, I wanted to talk real quick about something that I didn't mention in the last segment because it's important to mention. I didn't talk enough about the loss last night. Aaron Nola stumped. There's no way around the fact that Aaron Nola stumped, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that with Nick Picone. But I think Topper did a really bad job managing last night when it comes to leaving him into the sixth inning. 86 pitches after the first five. He clearly didn't have his best stuff. He clearly didn't look good. He didn't have a single clean inning. He was battling through five. He got out of some jams. He only gave up the 2 runs on the homer. But he gave up the 1, 2nd, and 3rd to start with no outs. And he gets out of it, but the pitch count went way up against a team it shouldn't go way up against. So even if you're saying take him out at 5, it's not a good start. The Topper let it spiral. It seems like they leave Nola in way longer than these other pitchers. Sanchez is throwing a no-hitter with 70-something pitches, and they take him out the 3rd time through the lineup. And Nola, they just leave him in there, even though there's been no sign that he looks like himself in the game. So I don't understand that decision from Topper, and I don't understand bringing Union Marte in when you have 2nd and 3rd there with no outs. So I think we have Nick Picone on the line, so let's see if we can get him. On Twitter, you can follow him at _Picone. Go and X him all your thoughts. Go really good follow on X, as me and Jeremy were just talking about. But we have Nick Picone on the line. Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm actually might be a little bit more positive than you today, which is a reversal of sorts compared to the last few weeks. So, we'll get into it.
Yeah, I'm still positive overall. I have some things that are obviously concerning me, but from an overall perspective, I'm still pretty positive. This is the 3rd best team in the NL. So from that perspective, I'm doing okay. But let's start there. I was just talking before we had you on about Aaron Nola. I'm not sure what you heard, but obviously a brutal start last night. I would say that I think obviously even if you say take him out after 5 and after 86 pitches, then that's not a good start against the Royals. 5 innings, 2 runs, whatever. It's not a good start. But he hadn't had a clean inning. He was at 86 pitches. It's the 3rd time through the lineup. We've seen Topper take Sanchez out with a no-hitter at 72 pitches because it's the 3rd time through the lineup. And we've seen Topper take plenty of guys out way too early to turn to the pen. And in the 6th inning, he gives up a home run, and he leaves him out there still. And then he leaves him out there continuously for 2 more hits. And then you bring Marte in a brutal spot. I think obviously Nola has to be better. He has to figure out how to not be in his own head when he gets into these terrible situations. But it's also on Topper at this point. I think Nola has to have a quicker hook. We've seen it too many times in the 6th and 7th inning where it ruins what would have been a fine start. What do you think about Topper leaving him in there? And do you think that they I feel like they've been leaving Nola in far too long in plenty of stuff.
Yeah, I think we're in the middle of 17 games in a row. I think that has something to do with it. He's already packed the bullpen a little bit in the beginning of this streak, so probably thought Nola, again, he's been durable for us pretty much his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, we'll go shut down the Royals, it's probably what Topper's thinking. And, it didn't happen. And like you said, it's happened far too often, especially this season. You would think, okay, at least we'll get a quality start against the Royals, even though the Royals are on a streak of their own. But no, Aaron Nola has 11 quality starts. I tweeted this out. 11 quality starts in his 23 starts of the year. And that's just not good enough if you're going to be taken seriously as the number 2 in this rotation. especially when Kyle Gibson. That's that was a little nugget that got people a little riled up. But Aaron Nola's got to be better. I don't. I think a lot had to do with though, the 17 games in a row. He doesn't want to tax the bullpen, even though he was kind of taxed it already a little bit. So I don't have strong feelings either way. It's just Aaron Nola's got to be better.
Yeah, he's got to be better. The thing I'd say, and this is, I guess, it's funny. I was joking with Jeremy off air, and we even joked about it a little bit on air. But when I said we were having Nick Picone on, Jeremy's like, "Ooh, get your popcorn ready. Mark and Nick are gonna go at it."
It's always interesting.
But it always ends up being like way more civil than I think Jeremy's expecting, or some people would expect after looking at our Twitter stuff. The one thing, so you've been quick to point out on Twitter that you're expecting the pitching to regress, and that's a concern of yours with the offense not improving. That you're expecting the pitching to regress. What I would point to is I would say we've been the best rotation in terms of F4 in the MLB, and that's with Aaron Nola having 11 out of 23 quality starts and a worse whatever than Kyle Gibson. And by the way, it's weird. Kyle Gibson's been amazing for the last month. He's like 4 of his last 5 starts have been massive. But Aaron Nola,
even against the Phillies.
Yeah, even against the Phillies, we were a part of that. And I think there's like 2 more good lineups in there too. I know Toronto and Tampa. Like, he's been really good lately. It's so frustrating to watch. But with Nola, I'd say that I think that's a point of I don't think there's that much progression to be had because I don't think Nola's going to be much worse than he's been. Like even he's had good starts sprinkled in here. If he was just all bad, I'd say like we can't even buy into him at all. I'm not saying treat him like a number 2. I'm saying have a quicker hook with him, topper for sure. But the fact that we're so deep 3 through 5 and maybe even 3 through 6 now has to help a little bit with maybe our top 2 not being quite as dominant, even though I think Wheeler is back to what we've seen and the underlying numbers can tell you he's even better as of late than what we saw the last couple of years. So I think Wheeler's a true ace, and then now it comes down to maybe needing 1 out of the 2 of Nola and Ranger to be what we had that last year, and then 1 out of the 2 of Lorenzen and Walker to be what they've been this year. So I feel like you at least have a lot of places to turn to in terms of arms in the rotation. And I guess that leads to a question about Lorenzen. What was your thoughts on the Michael Lorenzen trade? What were your thoughts on his first start? Obviously positive, but what are your thoughts on the 6-man rotation and what that's going to look like for the playoffs?
Chris Levi, and that was it was the only thing that would have made it better is if you had a home game. It's going to be like, oh man, I don't think it could have went better for Lorenzen's first start with the Phillies. I like the idea of the rotation. Again, I said maybe it'll help guys like Wheeler and Nola that Nola especially this season, but Wheeler he missed a few starts last year in August, I believe, or might have done it in September. I don't remember off the top of my head, but keeping them as fresh as possible heading into the playoffs. Because yes, I do still think they are a playoff team. Again, I think you mentioned it earlier, and I agree with you. No other team is kind of running away with wild cards. We want the Phillies to be that team. We want them to be like that first wild card team that's at least 5 games up, and it's just not been happening. So I think that's where a lot of the anger comes from a lot of the fans. It's like, oh, we suck and stuff like that. Like, okay, no, we don't suck, but why can't we be the team that's running away with wild card? Because the other teams aren't doing it. Like, doesn't make us feel better, But with the 6-man rotation, I thought that would actually help, not only the rotation but the bullpen as well. So I'm hoping, that's the case, and I think it was a strategic move by Dave Dombrowski. We would have loved another bat, left fielder, right-handed hitting bat. Just didn't shake out, and I think it's fine that he didn't make a trade just to make a trade. You just got to hope the moves that he did make help this team make it to the playoffs at the very least. Lorenzen, it could have gone better, and I just hope that continues to, he's a big piece of this portion.
And it's something interesting you can work with in the playoffs where you obviously have Wheeler for game 1.
Yeah.
Like in a 5 to 7 game series, like you could have, I mean, who knows how it shakes out, how guys are the rest of the way. but whoever our number two is, like let's say Nola finds his form, or let's say Lorenzen is a stud for the rest of the year. Like if you piggyback like Walker and Ranger, and you piggyback like Lorenzen and Sanchez, like a righty and a lefty for being 3 and 4, and like didn't have to use your bullpens as much in those games, and kind of went with two starters. Like, there's a lot of interesting things you can do like that. And another thing that could play in, I've heard some rumors that they're advancing Griff McGarry pretty fast here. Griff McGarry's been really good in Double A. They brought him up to Triple A yesterday. They plan on starting him 2 times this week. I've heard rumors he could be up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So Griff McGarry could play, another factor in that. But let's go to the offense and let's take a look at the offense and let's talk about Trey Turner because he was the story of last night, taking, putting aside the game and putting aside the result and everything like that and everything that was frustrating when it comes to it. Trey Turner got a standing ovation, got multiple standing ovations, and it started as kind of like a Twitter grassroots thing. And I initially gave Nick Picone credit, and he's still the first person I saw it from. And I think he's the person that really amplified it with a lot of tweets and funny memes and stuff like that throughout the day. Who I know you mentioned the name that you saw it from, and give us just a little like insight on how the Trey Turner thing happened, and then what your thoughts were on how it played out, and what your thoughts were on his comments after the game.
And so I saw a tweet from Mitch Rupert, who covers the minor leagues, and he does a great job doing that. And he had quote tweeted the press conference. Well, I guess technically it was a press conference.
Yeah.
Trey Turner after the game in Miami, where he booted the ball and Miami tied it, and the Phillies wound up losing. Trey makes that play, the Phillies win. I don't have a problem of him taking ownership of costing them the game, and I don't have a problem saying, "Hey, Trey Turner cost us that game," because he makes that play, the Phillies win. It was literally one play that kind of decided that in the moment. Yes, it was a team failure, but that play caused the Marlins to tie the game. So he took ownership of it. The only reason we saw those comments from Trey Turner after the game is because he stayed behind. I was in the batting cage trying to figure things out. We heard the story. Even Rob Thompson stayed behind. He was in the batting cage till midnight or after midnight, trying to figure things out. And reporters were still there, and that's when he talked to reporters. And we saw that on NBC Sports Philadelphia. It just looked like he could have been lower. That he literally, from his mouth, said, "I cost the game." It just when we see something like that, there's no other recourse than to just feel bad. Like I was the first one to be like, "This is on Trey Turner." Right after that happened, right after Philly called, I'm like, "Dude, like Trey, what are we doing here?" And this happened a couple hours later, and then you see it the next day, and you're like, "Man, like nobody's harder on Trey Turner than Trey Turner," and he really feels like he knows what's happening. Like he knows he's not performing. He knows that he's very self-aware. And then we saw comments from Nick Castellanos. Trey, like we're here for Trey. Like Trey knows what's going on. Like we're here for him. Great leadership in that clubhouse right now, especially from Nick, who was on record of, I think it was the athletic stories that I read that had Nick saying a lot of things about Trey. So that's where it's been from. That's where, I saw Mitch quote tweet that. Like, maybe a standing O will go a long way for Trey. And to me, it was like an innocuous, tweet that I was just like, yeah, like, why not? Like, it'll make the national media, PO that they can't trash us if we give Trey a standing ovation instead of just boo him, which, by the way, we have been doing for the last few months. I think we gave him a grace period of like 2.5 months, maybe, before finally we heard a lot of boos at Citizens Bank Park. He wouldn't come through. So I really think that for me, it was more innocuous. Like, yeah, like the media a chance to trash us again and give them a standing O. I didn't think it would turn into what it turned into. And then other people, on Twitter that have a bigger following, that have a bigger platform, also started getting involved in that. So that's where, I wasn't sure what to expect going into last night, but I was actually surprised that he got as much love as he did in terms of, the applause and everything. And listen, and there's so many people now. I don't want to say so many people, but now we see the people that are acting like they don't know why Trey was getting standing ovation. It's like, dude, it literally stems from those team comments he made, how down he looked, couldn't even look at the camera, how depressed he sounded. It's just like, let's lift him up. We don't think we're gonna magically cure him. Like, that's not where I think it's coming from. I think it's like, man, this dude can't be any lower right now. He's coming home. Let's just, support him another way. That's why the charity thing started going around online, which is really cool. It's like, no, it's getting ovation. We'll do it, but hey, let's donate to his charity, the state of charity, which is a nice gesture. But also, being in the moment and like seeing that, and hey, he appreciated it. Like, it wasn't something where people made this argument that, oh, it's so condescending and it's going to make him embarrassed, which to me is just like, we see a lot of manufactured arguments about certain things in sports on many platforms. And for me, that was the biggest manufactured one. That's all, it's so condescending. It's going to make him embarrassed. Like, you don't know Trey, man. Like, we saw what Trey was going through with our own eyes. We heard the rejection in his voice.
Yeah.
And we saw how like he looked. So let's just support him by clapping. Whether we thought that would cure him or not, I don't think that was the point of it. But it's the least we could do. We've been billing him. For me, it was more like the least we could do was just show him that, hey, you're going to be here for a decade. We were here for it. Like saying, so many people that were against it kind of blew it out of proportion.
Yeah, you mentioned the people with bigger platforms. Okay. I mean, I think people put one quote out there, maybe said it on radio elsewhere, but you were the person I saw talking most about it. And you might not have a bigger platform as some others, but man, you're good at Twitter. You get engagement by the bucket loads. So,
X.
yeah, you're good at X.
He's good at
Jeremy's
X.
correcting me. You're good at X. So you get engagement by the bucket loads there, and I think you're a huge part of that kind of movement. Just in the interest of me not being free, I will say that I do see both sides. I lean more towards your side, and like I said in the first segment, if I was there, I would have clapped. If I was there, I would have taken part of it, and I totally understand the human aspect of it. And I'm human above all, and I'm the one preaching positivity among the fan base. So I can't sit here and say like that's stupid. We should boo, and like I don't really. My take on it was like I couldn't really muster up much of an opinion either way, but I understood both sides, and I understood why some people would say that they thought it was a little bit fake and a little bit like to stick it in the face of the national media that like, hey, we're not as bad as you think we are. Like, and I get that angle. Like, I do kind of get that, but also I don't care. I think there's too much positivity to say from it. And the one thing I'll push back on, you said we've been doing Trey Turner a lot. I actually, as someone who's been lecturing Phillies fans about how negative they are, I actually don't think we've been that unfair to Trey Turner. Like, I don't think it's been this like voracious level of hate and booze at the stadium, and even online. Like, I think people like Nola and Schwarber get just as much hate as Trey does, and I think you see other guys get like just as much grief as Trey does. I don't think that the negativity towards Trey has been too far or deafening or crossed the line or anything like that. If anything, I get frustrated that there's not more individual player negativity and questions. And I think most of the time when Trey does something negative, it's I hate this team and this team stinks and this team's unserious. Like instead they make it a referendum on the whole team instead of focusing on one guy out of 25. So actually, I don't know what you think. I don't think it's went too far at any point on the Trey Turner negativity. Do you?
No, I agree with you on that. Like, yeah, I say we've been doing it. It hasn't been, like, getting booze every single time he comes to the plate or pops out or strikes out or makes an error in the field. It's just like more like a come on, dude. Like, what are you doing out there? Because Trey Turner expects more from Trey Turner, and we expect more from Trey Turner, and he'll be the first to tell you that. So, I don't think it's been like too negative, but I think seeing what he said after that game,
Absolutely.
just hearing his voice was the catalyst for listen. We got to lift this guy up because we haven't heard that from anyone else really. Like if Schwarber had a similar interview, post-game comments, he calls from the game, and we heard him in the same way as Trey, I think we would have given him a shorter standing ovation.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's specific to Trey. Like I said, I think the anti-cheering crowd kind of, blew it out of proportion. But I agree with you in that I don't think the national media, angle of it, kind of the life of its own. I might have been the first one to say something about, hey, let's push back the national media, but I didn't think that would be the priority of doing it. For me, it was just like, let's stay up. But a lot of people are like, yeah, let's show national media that we're good fans. Like, I don't agree with that aspect either. Like a lot of people took it to that level too. And I was like, well, that's not exactly the reason we should be doing this. Just to, make ourselves look good. It's more about Trey than us. So I do think both angles of it kind of blew it out of proportion, and what was originally the intent of this is first seat and then my seat. I kind of had that stick a little bit, like, we're going to take national media, but the premise of it was, dude, like, and look, I got an RBI single, and I'm not saying that was the reason for it, but a lot of people, there were people out there saying, getting ovation did nothing, and I was like, listen, dude, straight there down the RBI single, like, that would have put the Phillies ahead if Aaron Nolan came up with 2 runs. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't. It's not one or the other. It can be a mix of both. I do understand. Like, man, we don't need to coddle this $300 million player this year for 10 years. I understand that, but it wasn't about the booing for me. It was like, man, if you saw that interview, and like I said, that's where it's been from for, at least for me, and a lot of people, that was like, I left them up a little bit because of that interview. It wasn't anything else.
Yeah, one last thing on the Phillies. I really want to get over to SummerSlam, but there's obviously so many Phillies conversations. But I will just say, you mentioned being surprised, like kind of the life of the zone that it took on and how big of an ovation that it got in the arena. And this is my takeaway from that. And this isn't even really a question. I just meant to say it earlier in the show and totally forgot about it. I think people drastically underestimate how online Philadelphia fan base is. Like I think we are arguably the most online fan base that there is in terms of all the MLB fan bases, and even just in general big cities fan bases. Boston's up there as well for sure, but I think we are just so online, and I think a lot of the times Sean Brace a lot of the times will throw at me when I'm going on and making fun of the Philadelphians, making fun of the negativity. Sean Brace will say like, "Oh, that's online. Like, that's on Twitter. You're too deep on the timeline." And my answer would be like, I think that Twitter is more like realistic. I think more people are on that Twitter, and more people are seeing that than we anticipate. And I think a larger percent of the people that are down at the stadium are seeing these kind of movements each day that we have about the Phillies more than we expect and more than we think. Like, I think we think we're in this little bubble, but I know, like, me and you are tweeting all the time. We're tweeting all our thoughts. Like, Jeremy is tweeting sometimes. Like, there's all of us. We're in it. Like, we're tweeting every day. I think we take for granted like how many friends and family members I have that maybe aren't tweeting. Like, maybe they're not tweeting out their thoughts. Maybe they're not creating content, obviously, but they have a Twitter and they're following us and they're following the big content creators for each Philly sports guy, and like they might not be interacting with it, but they're seeing it. They're a part of it. Like, I don't know. There's not a question here, so this is bad radio by me, but it's more just to say like Sean Brace, people are online.
Well, yeah, and even if you read an article, like a lot of tweets are in articles that I read too. So
that's a great point. That's a great point. You get clipped in a lot of articles. I feel like every time I go and read like a Phillies article, they'll say a fancy call or a tweet in there. So I see who'd you get into it with crossing broad the other day? That used to tweet.
Oh, yeah, and Flippo. He posted something today that was cheering for Trey. This is the problem I have. Though, like, they get condescending to a point where it's like, oh, let's do some common sense. I guess like another host last night was anti-bill or anti-cheering, and he was like, yeah, let's common sense. It's like, man, we don't need to be condescending either at the same time. Like, we can see both angles of it and formulate an opinion without trying to bring down the other side as being, some insane Like it's not insane behavior to try and lift right there. It was clearly going through his struggles and very open about it.
Yeah.
It's not an insane thing to do, just because we're a Philly fan base and we expect more. It, it's more like, all right, we did the booing. Let's try something else. Like maybe this will help. And listen, RBI single. I'm not saying Trey is cured, but he wasn't the reason for the loss last night either. So, like he was in Miami the other night. That's baby steps, I guess. But the one tweet that he used in my article was or his article. I had mentioned I didn't want Bryce Scott fans. Like Bryce Scott just play against lefties or whatever. Yeah. And yes, there was the argument that the 17 straight games. If any day he's going to get off, it's going to be now. But he's one of the best hitters on the team right now, and you're like every fifth day behind Christopher Sanchez, you're fielding not even a AAA lineup. It might be like the 2.5 day lineup. Like what are we doing here? We're punting a game in the middle of the wild card race where you're sitting your two best hitters and going in Scott. So just play Scott. And I guess someone replied to me, Grayson has played in 98 of 105 games or something like that. So that was
That's also a little fun with numbers because I'm sure that he probably pinched it in like 8 or 9 of those.
And that's where you make your numbers your friend. Where you can help your point. Your the point you're trying to make. And I saw that in the article, and I had tweeted at him. But his main point was Michael Scott has played more than people think. And it's like, well, then keep him in there. Like he's the hottest hitter in a lineup that's struggling. I don't understand why you just don't keep playing him.
Yeah, I get even more frustrated with the Marsh stuff. It's the highest OPS on the team. Drives me nuts. He's not playing every single day.
I think he was meant to do that game.
Yeah, he was.
We had like that lineup was, and that's where I have a problem with the manager. It's like, come on, dude. Like, no, I don't want Rob Thompson fired, but it's like you don't need to put this behind Mr. Sanchez every day.
Yeah,
every day.
I think Rob Thompson's extremely average. I think he's an extremely average manager. I think he's been really good at managing the bullpen most times. He's had some faults lately. I think he's been pretty cool lately. So I think he's like about as average as they come as a manager. But I think the guys generally like him. So I think that's like
yeah.
So that's really all I have to say about Thompson. But when you go on your Thompson things, like you'll notice that's not where I get upset. Like, the Thompson stuff, he's super average in my head. Like I'm not some Rob Thompson defender. But let's get over to SummerSlam. Let's get over to the fun stuff of the day. I wasted way too much time talking Phils there, but we got to talk some SummerSlam. What's the match you're most looking forward to tonight, outside of the main event?
Oh, outside of the main event. Oh man. Well, what's the main event to you?
I'm assuming
it's or Cody and Brock.
There's 4 of them in this.
Jeremy's gonna come in. And,
I'm just saying what they're saying. They're saying it's a 4-match main event. They're saying half of the card is the main event.
I thought I was a WWE shill because I'm always going at AEW, and I thought I was a WWE shill. Jeremy is getting checks from the McMahon family. Oh yeah, with his take that he gives to me on the show. Every decision that WWE's made has always been the perfect one. Roman should have the belt for the next 25 years. It's great. It's great to hear Mr. WWE over there. But in terms of, I think the main event is going to be Roman J. I'm probably more excited for Cody Brock personally, just in terms of like what I think will be fun. But that's honestly like you can convince me either way on that. Roman J is going to be the main event, but outside of Roman J, what would you say you're most excited for?
I'm going to go with Seth and Finn Balor. The problem is Finn Balor. I think Finn Balor is going to win the title.
Wow.
My official prediction. I think they built this as well as they possibly could have. I really didn't care about it in the beginning, but they really made me kind of care about this in a way that I didn't think I would. To me, it's like Seth just won the title. Don't care. He's going to keep it for a while. But now, like, there are rumors that he got injuries and he's building something maybe coming up. So I could definitely see him dropping it to Balor. And, you have that dynamic with Damian Priest Money in the Bank. So I think that would be Judgment Day has been a huge part of Raw for months. They love WWE. Reportedly love how they're doing.
It's a shame that
I think it just kind of helps.
it's a shame that the two people involved in this storyline are the two least interesting members of the Judgment Day with Finn and Priest. But yeah, so I agree with you. The match is going to be a banger. We all know that. It's Seth and Finn. There's no way it's not going to be a banger. The injuries cloud my judgment. I think the best way to handle it, if we're trying to get Priest ready for a main event, is to have something where Priest and Finn turn on each other here in some capacity, or Priest costs Finn the match, or Priest cashes in on Finn. Because I think a Priest Finn feud would be a good thing to get Damian ready. So that's in some capacity, I'm expecting to come out of tonight with Damian versus Finn. I don't know who the face is. I don't know who the heel is, honestly. But I think we're going to get that feud coming out of SummerSlam, and I think it's going to be good for both of them. But I don't know where the title ends up. Like, does Finn beat Seth and Priest cashes in? Does Finn beat Seth and Priest? We kind of play this out for a couple months where Priest is haunting Seth or Priest is haunting Finn, and that's kind of a storyline. Does Seth win because Priest costs Finn? Like, I think no matter what, we're getting Priest Finn coming out of this. What do you think?
I would love to see Finn win and then Priest come out with the briefcase, but act like he's celebrating with Finn. Like, yeah, man, you won the title, and everyone thinks he's gonna cash in, but he doesn't. And so Finn's kind of like, look at him sort of like, like you're out here congratulating me that you have that briefcase with you. But Damian's like just happy that Finn won. And that could be an interesting dynamic, where Finn's the champion, but he's literally got his best friend, for all intents and purposes, that can cash in on him at any time and take that title.
You're not talking about MJF and Adam Cole here. Two best friends.
No. Friends. Who actually can tell exist.
Yeah, but I do want to real quick talk about Roman and Jay, since we mentioned it, and I think that's obviously the main event. So, Roman and Jay. Roman obviously has held the belt for 3 decades at this point. It's been since 1995 that he's been holding the belt. Yeah. In my opinion, there's been a lot of times. Obviously, I was a proponent of like, let Sammy take the belt and have him drop it back in some scenario to Roman, and we'll be fine for Mania, and we'll give us a Roman. And then we were both and I still am of the mindset that they messed up the Cody Rhodes thing. I think Cody should have got the belt at Mania. And I'm back at the point where, to me, this Roman Jay match does not feel big enough to justify Roman losing the belt after how long it's been. Like, I think if Roman's jobbing the belt, it's got to be to a guy who we think is going to be a main eventer for the next 5 years, and we think is going to be able to partially carry the company, assuming that Roman will be taking time off at some point. Like, I like Jey Uso. I don't think he's that guy. Like, I think if we're talking about the guys who need to be considered to take the belt off Roman, it's Cody, it's Solo, maybe Seth, maybe LA. But I don't see anyone else. Like, I don't see Jay as this guy who's going to hold the belt for a long time. And I understand the storyline, why he could be an option, but I love the early Roman Jay matches. I'm expecting tonight to be an amazing match, an amazing story. I don't think Jay should be the guy who takes the belt off. So I'm Mr. Roman Reigns tonight. Like, I'm putting my ones up. I'm all aboard. Him keeping the belt tonight. What do you think happens? What do you want to happen?
I agree. I think Roman wins. I don't think Jay's that guy either, but I don't think they should have built this particular match any better. I think everything storyline wise makes sense. I could see Jimmy returning and taking out Solo, and then maybe have somebody else come in or something to introduce something kind of like Clash at the Castle last year when Solo debuted. I do think it's someone like Solo or Cody that eventually dethrones Roman. I think it happens at WrestleMania. I don't think you have Roman lose the title, even though SummerSlam today. And I heard your conversation earlier. I do think it's the second biggest show on the WWE calendar.
It's out there.
I know Royal Rumble is right there, but the way they treat SummerSlam now, to me, just is number 2. So I don't think Roman loses tonight. It could have been anybody. It could have been Cody. It could have been Roman versus Cody too. I still think Roman wins because I think Roman's dropping the title at WrestleMania. I don't see why you would stray from that plan if that was you know,
I
he's not going to lose in the Survivor Series for sure.
Yeah.
So I don't think he loses it. I think he keeps it for WrestleMania. But yeah, maybe we see some new face interject themselves at some point. There'll be shenanigans for sure, I think.
I agree. Maybe we can get Dwayne in to Detroit. I don't know what his schedule's looking like.
God
But
forbid. God forbid he shows up.
don't get me started on Dwayne. But
I'm over him.
me too. I'm right there with you. I wish we had more time. I really do. I want to get into each match and dive in for like 20 more minutes. But we'll be bringing Jansen on to talk even more about it later. But the SummerSlam theme, the Gambler tonight. We'll be missing Nick McComb, but he'll be tweeting it off on socials.
Yeah, I'll be watching. This was made for me, and I'm still angry. Dealing with medical stuff that I haven't been able to sit in my chair for more than 10 minutes at a time. So I got to get this stuff taken care of.
Mhm.
But man, like I'll be tuned in for sure.
We'll be missing you there tonight, and hopefully it's a Phillies win and a good SummerSlam tonight. So,
I'll just do tweet. I'll do tweet the Phillies all night.
yeah. Maybe it's good we're not sitting next to each other tonight. We'd be doing our Twitter argument in real life. No, you can go and follow Nick Picone at _Picone on Twitter. Check out his SummerSlam thoughts, his Phillies thoughts. Check out his pod, the Shooters Pod. You can follow at the Shooters Pod. I think Vaughn Johnson's going to be there tonight, right?
He is.
Awesome.
Bowie Bond's going. So,
he'll be holding it down for the Shooters Pod there for Picone. So thanks for coming on, Nick.
Appreciate it, man. Have a good time tonight.
Of course. There he is, Nick Picone. We love having him on. We could have talked for 20 more minutes. We got to get to Jansen though. That Jansen, yeah, that's a lot. I mean, he's been on this show probably like double the amount of any other guest I ever had. So clearly, but we're on the other side. We're gonna do a little MLB picks, a little immaculate grid, and we're gonna bring Jansen on later. So keep it locked up the radio show right here on the
Are you a business owner, CEO,
back to the Tough Cover radio show right here on the Gambler, streaming on YouTube, streaming on Twitter, streaming on iHeartRadio. It is Saturday, August 5th, Summerslam Saturday. Yeah, let me talk to you. But before we get to SummerSlam, we got a little baseball here. Give out our MLB picks. Jeremy forgot. I got really busy with the Immaculate Grid, which that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to give you my picks in 5 minutes or less. Jeremy, put the timer on. 5 minutes or less. MLB picks. Make you some money. Make you some props. By the way, we'll do the picks first, and then the Hermo Strong props of the day. I didn't forget this week. Five picks, 5 props. Talking all things baseball on the board today for the next 5 minutes. After that, we're going to talk a little Immaculate Grid, a different Immaculate Grid. It kind of ruined my segment.
Weird one.
It kind of ruined my segment.
Weird one for sure.
I won't. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's start it off. Wait. I mean, it's SummerSlam Saturday. I got to get it going. Or bash it. I mean, I got the Bash at the Beach hat on. Shout out Michael Buffer. Oh, let's get ready to gamble. I almost said Rumble.
You almost said Rumble. I was going to say
I almost said Rumble. But let's get it over to the picks. At 105, my favorite bets on the board, technically not my biggest unit bets, but if you put them together, it's my best bet. I have Astros -1.5 at +125 at the Yankees today. And I also have Astros first 5 -115, 2 units on each. Jeremy, try to make this make sense to me. We have Justin Verlander in his first start back in Houston. We know what's happening. 3.1 ERA. He's been amazing for the last month and a half. Like Verlander struggled early as a Met. He's been better and way better.
Very much.
Like Cy Young Verlander the last month and a half. And he's going to New York, who he absolutely dominates. And you look at the lineup, it's like 180 against him. And the Yankees have Nestor Cortez, who the Astros have done really, really well against. And he's kind of lost his magic this year. 5.16 ERA, has not been the same guy. How is this -145? How is it +125 on the -1.5 for the Astros?
That's crazy.
How is the first 5 line -115? I don't get it.
It's the Yankees.
I don't get this at all. I'm all in on the Astros, both when we have some props as well. But -1.5, 2 units. First 5, 2 units. All in on the Astros.
Love it.
At 605, Phillies -1.5 against the Royals. They have to bounce back, right? They didn't hit against Jordan Lyles, the worst starter in baseball. How about Alec Marsh, who might be worse? So I'm hoping that they can put it together here. Obviously, the Royals have won 7 in a row, so that is concerning. But the Royals are 43-54 against the run line in games that they are favored, 48-63, or in games that they're underdogs, 48-63 in general. So I do like the Phils -1.5 here. That's a low unit bet though at 1 unit. Christopher Sanchez. I do like that. Yesterday we had Nola, the righty, throwing obviously a lot different stuff than Sanchez. Sanchez throws a lot more off speed. Sanchez doesn't throw as hard. It's a lefty, a way different look than Nola. So I kind of like that the Royals are getting a way different type of pitcher. I think it's going to throw them off today. So I like the Phils -1.5. At 715, one of my favorite bets on the board. I think it's actually moved up a little bit here. I got the total at over 9 in Rock. Oh, no, it's at 9 again. So I like the total at over 9 in Rockies Cardinals. Ty Block on the mound for the Rockies. Steven Matz on the mound for the Cardinals. Both BVPs suggest that the lineups absolutely kill both of these left-handers. Cardinals and Rockies, not bad against left-handed pitching either in general. So I like the over there at 9 runs in the Rockies and the Cardinals. And then my last bet of the day, Angels +126 at 907 against the Seattle Mariners. I think the Angels are like just as good as the Mariners. I know that they've had some heartbreaking losses. The BVP numbers suggest that the Angels do well against George Kirby and the Mariners struggle against left-handed pitching. So don't love that bet. I'm going with a 1 unit play since they are underdogs and I think it is a 50-50 shot. So I like the Angels late night there. Then the Hermo Strong player props of the day. I mentioned how much I love the Astros. Yordan Alvarez and Alex Bregman both hit Nestor Cortez very well. Yordan Alvarez is +143 to RBI. Alex Bregman's +155 to RBI. Give me both of those for 1 unit. Yordan Alvarez, people don't realize how good he's been because he's missed some times this year. But if he was playing the full year and Shohei Ohtani didn't exist, he'd be in the MVP conversation. He has played in 65 games and he's got 60 RBIs. How is he plus 143 to RBI if he's way more likely to RBI than he's not? So I don't get that line there. Alex Bregman, really, really good numbers against Nestor Cortez. At 405, Josh Bell, a new Miami Marlin, has been hitting very well, as we can attest to as Phillies fans over the last couple of days in his first days in Miami. He's had a lot of success against John Gray, 3 for 6 with 3 home runs against John Gray over his career. So I like Josh Bell to RBI at plus 175 at 405. At 715, my favorite player prop of the day, even though there's no juice on it. There's barely any juice on it, but it's because there's a reason for it. Nolan Arenado is plus 110 to RBI. Usually you don't see guys at plus 110 to RBI, but the reason he is, in his experience against Ty Block, he is 10 for 16 with 3 doubles, a triple, and a home run. The guy absolutely owns him. A 625 batting average. He's got like a 1600 OPS against him and 16 at bats. He's got no chance to, as Vince McMahon would say, who's under federal investigation, pal. He's got no chance in hell against Nolan Arenado. Then my last one on the board, I said Arenado's my favorite. This is the one that makes the least amount of sense to me, Jeremy. So, Jeremy, I know you're clipping stuff over there, but give me your input on this one.
I'm listening.
Shohei Ohtani. He has 82 RBIs in 109 games. He's plus 170 to RBI today against George Kirby. Are we really giving George Kirby that much respect?
Is this what we're doing here?
What? Shohei Ohtani's like the greatest baseball player of the modern era. Why is he ever plus 170?
That's a good question. That's
to
actually
RBI.
insane.
I don't understand this at all. Maybe I'm not paying close enough attention in general to his props. By the way, his numbers against George Kirby, 6 for 14 with a double, a home run, and a walk. An average exit velocity of 99.1. What am I missing here?
He's ridiculous.
I might put 2 units on that, actually. So that actually, I talked myself into that. I like that more than the Arenado one just because of the juice on it. That's so much juice. He's Shohei freaking Ohtani. What are we doing? So yeah, those are my player props, Hermo Strong player props and picks of the day. So real quick, before we get over to Jansen, let's do this in 5 minutes. Let's do our Immaculate Grid segment. Yeah. We went a little too long on our previous segments, so we don't get as much time as we want. But honestly, it works out because this isn't my favorite Immaculate Grid.
Yeah.
I like the teams. I like having teams there.
That's more fun.
Yeah.
That's more fun. Now, this has been my best Immaculate Grid, but I think the teams are just way more fun to do.
It's my second best Immaculate Grid. But today they had different categories. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners know Immaculate Grid is a baseball trivia guessing game. Usually it's like Seattle Mariners and Minnesota Twins, which guy has played for both teams. And that's kind of an example. This time they used accolades in terms of baseball accolades. So they're the top left, 500 home run career, Silver Slugger, MVP, and then across from the top, 300 average career, Gold Glove, and Hall of Fame. So top left, 300 average career, and a 500 plus home run. Who did you have, Jeremy?
Now this is my highest percentage one that I had, and that was Miguel Cabrera at 12%.
I used Willie Mays at 18%. Some of the other options, Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, the guy that I looked at as maybe a better option, Manny Ramirez, Frank Thomas, Ted Williams, and Mel Ott would be the other options.
That would
there.
be a crazy pool.
And then top middle, who did you have for Gold Glove and 500 plus home run career?
I had Ernie Banks on that one. That was a 1%er.
That's a good way to have gone. I was between a couple options. Me and Jeremy, since we know a lot of these by heart, we tried to go with the lowest possible percentage to get the best score. So I went with Eddie Murray. I thought he might be even less known than Ernie Banks because I thought Ernie Banks, hey, let's play 2. Like I thought he might be a little more known, but Eddie Murray 2%. So a little bit less of a good guess by me there. Top right, Hall of Fame and 500 plus home run career. We actually both went with the same option. Harmon Killebrew, which was 5%.
The Killer, which by the way, one of the best nicknames in all of baseball history.
Yeah, and there was a lot of options here. Obviously, almost all the 500 home run guys that aren't steroid guys are in the Hall. So Hank Aaron, Babe Ruth, Willie Mays, Ken Griffey, Jim Thome, Frank Robinson, Reggie Jackson, Mike Schmidt, David Ortiz, Mickey Mantle, Jimmy Fox, Willie McCovey, Frank Thomas, Ted Williams, Ernie Banks, Eddie Matthews, Mel Ott, Eddie Murray. So those are the 19 guys who could have filled that slot. And then we move on to the next one here. And we move on to middle left, Silver Slugger that also finished their career with a 300 average. This is where I messed up my rarity score. I went with Tony Gwynn, who was the highest guess in terms of the most guessed answer. By the way, the most guessed answer for the top three, Hank Aaron, Alex Rodriguez, and Hank Aaron were the top three highest guesses for the top three. Tony Gwynn was the highest guess here at 27% for the 300 average on Silver Slugger. Who did you pull?
Someone I thought was going to be a high percentage, but Edgar Martinez was mine. One of the best DHs of all time. Got that at 2%.
There's a lot of good ones here. I missed out here. Roberto Alomar, Jose Altuve, Luis Arias, Wade Boggs, George Brett, Robbie Cano, Freddie Freeman, Nomar, Vladimir Guerrero, Tony Gwynn, or I mentioned that one. Todd Helton, Derek Jeter, Don Mattingly, Joe Mauer, Maglio Ordonez, Mike Piazza, Buster Posey, Manny, Pete Rose, Ichiro. Wow. Mike Trout, Frank Thomas, Larry Walker, a lot of really good options there for that one. And then this one, obviously there's a ton of options, Gold Glove and Silver Slugger, 140 different options for that, by the way. I went with Todd Helton, my best guess, which was 0.4%. Not a lot of people remember Todd Helton, which is why I went with it. Multiple time Gold Glover, multiple time Silver Slugger. So,
on my end, I went to a catcher and I got Joe Mauer at 0.9%. Absolutely loved that one. That was one where I knew there's a lot of options and I was sitting here for a while deciding who I wanted to go with.
And then middle right, Hall of Fame and Silver Slugger. I went with Craig Biggio because the reason it popped into my brain was because second base is a weak position. So I knew he had a bunch of Silver Sluggers. I think he ended up having like 8 or 10, a crazy amount actually, which is part of probably why he got in. And I know people are really mad that Biggio got in because he was an accumulator a little bit. So people get upset about that. So I remembered it and I didn't think people would remember to guess him. 2% for Craig Biggio.
This was my best one. I went with Dave Winfield and I got him at 0.8%. There were a couple other guys in my mind, but I feel like he was probably the lowest percentage out of all of them.
There's 42 possible answers there. So a lot of answers there. Bottom left, 300 average career end in MVP. If you look at like the early 1900s, almost every Hall of Famer has over 300s batting average. So that's where my brain went to. They just had way higher averages after the dead ball era. So I was looking at, and I picked this guy for a story because I watched The League of Their Own recently. Jimmy Dugan, in my opinion, Tom Hanks's best acting performance of his career. I love Tom Hanks in The League of Their Own. It's actually based on Jimmy Fox because Jimmy Fox managed in the girls' baseball league. That started when World War II was happening and a lot of the players went overseas. So thought that was an interesting tidbit. Who'd you go with?
On that one, I went with Rod Carew.
Hall of Famer, Rod Carew. He converted.
Exactly. A lot of my baseball knowledge, sadly, sad to say, this comes from when I used to play MLB The Show all the time. And I literally learned who Rod Carew was by playing that game and by his batting stance in the game. So Rod Carew was someone that's on my, he's just always like that best player that I just think of when I see 300 average. And I knew he won MVP in 77.
And then middle bottom, we both went the same way.
How could you not?
My favorite athlete of all time.
As of mine.
Sport. Gold Glove and MVP. There's only one answer in this city, and it's Jimmy Rollins, 3%. I knew it would be a little higher than some others because it's more recent, but I was like, you know what? I'm not guessing Jimmy Rollins when I can guess Jimmy Rollins. There are 60 possible answers, and Jimmy Rollins is one of them. Put him in the damn hall.
Put him in.
Bottom right, we had MVP and Hall of Fame. And the reason I used this person was to emphasize something. I feel like when we talk about greatest Yankees of all time, Derek Jeter comes up, which is a joke. And then you have Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, Reggie Jackson. I'm probably missing a couple names there, obviously. But the one that doesn't come up enough, and it's a guy that I was obsessed with as a kid because I read his book and I loved his yogiisms, is Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra, a 3-time MVP, like an 8, 9, 10-time champion.
Didn't he win back-to-back MVPs?
Yes, he did win back-to-back MVPs. 3-time MVP. So I wanted to throw that on there because I think people think of Yogi Berra like, oh, goofy catcher.
Yeah.
Had a lot of quotes.
Yep.
Won a lot of titles. They probably think of him like, oh, he was with Mantle and DiMaggio.
Yeah.
It's actually like he,
He was really good.
just as good as those guys in some years. He
Yeah.
won 3 MVPs. So Yogi Berra.
I went with my favorite power hitter of all time, and that's gonna be Frank Thomas. So good, 2-time MVP. Just an extraordinary baseball player. But I got him at 3%. I figured that not a lot of people would think of Frank Thomas. I thought they were going to think a lot of old timers, and Frank Thomas started in 2005, so I figured they wouldn't have been. When you think Hall of Fame, you think of like those old players, like 70s, 80s. Frank Thomas started in 2005, and I was just hoping to be a little bit better than 3%, but I'll take 3%.
So you had a 30 something?
I had a rarity score of 30.
30.
Which
That's
was
good.
my best. I had never gotten that.
I had 59. I've never had 30. My lowest is 43.
Yeah,
So-
I think prior to this 30, I think I was in the 50s.
Yeah.
And I just had a really good day, I guess.
All right, let's get over on the other side. We're going to take a break and bring Johnny Jansen, Johnny Jags on
Johnny
to
Jags.
talk some baseball, football, Summerslam, but we are definitely going to be breaking down a ton of Summerslam. So
Yeah.
keep it locked to the Tough Cover Radio Show right here on The Gambler.
Our iHeartRadio Music Festival is coming back to
Slam. And, we played Vince McMahon.
Don't you have a warrant out for your arrest, Vince?
He's under federal investigation.
Yeah, federal
pal.
investigation. That's what it is.
I had back surgery, pal.
What a guy.
Yeah.
How's your back doing? Good.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. It's hilarious that the last time Vince had the feds down his neck, he got a fake neck surgery and wore a neck brace. And then now he's getting a fake back surgery and he's probably going to get wheeled in like a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he'll get hit in a bedpan by like Stone Cold on TV. But
Working
yeah.
yourself into a shoot, brother.
Yeah. It's definitely yeah. Let's get off Vince McMahon as fast as possible. Let's talk about SummerSlam. We hope that, since Vince is distracted with all this federal stuff, we're hoping this is like a Triple H show. Like, I'm hoping Vince is
We're letting the genius do his thing.
Huh?
So we're letting the genius do his thing.
Yeah,
in Triple H.
yeah. I'm just hoping Triple H has full control of this show. I'm hoping with everything that's going on out there. So
Isn't Vince McMahon still like naming names though? I think he's the one.
Dirty
who,
Dom.
Yeah, I
and
think he
Big-
was the one who did
and-
Dirty Dom.
and-
allegedly he's
and
still
Big
involved.
Vince and Reed.
I'm not
It's
gonna
good.
lie.
I don't hate Dirty Dom.
I love Dirty Dom.
I don't
love
hate
it.
it. I don't hate it at
I
all.
think it's really good. I thought, wow, that's genius.
Whoa.
Good for you,
That's
Trips.
a good call.
Good for you, Paul.
Yeah.
And no, it's a Vince thing.
It's good.
Okay.
Yeah, he still has some things, I guess, left in there. But let's
You know what? I love how probably Truth's like, you know what? I'll give you that one, buddy. Good for you. I'll let you have that.
let's talk SummerSlam off the top here. Well, let's just get into it.
You want to talk about the Phillies tweet that we had today that everybody's getting mad about?
They
So
are
I
getting
did not-
frustrated.
I just heard about it. I didn't see the tweet until
I
now.
want to know your reaction.
I thought
Do you have the audio, Jeremy?
I thought
can
you
pull it up
said
while you talk.
you said underperformed this season, and I would have gotten annoyed about that. I don't think they've underperformed this season.
I think they have.
they
When you have the 18th best lineup in baseball with all that money in it,
yeah, they have the first best rotation if you look at F4. So they're the fourth best team in the
that's
NL.
still underperforming.
I think they
This-
underperformed for the first 13 games. They haven't underperformed since April 12th.
I would say they have. Look, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs and everything, but yeah, I think they're underperforming to the standards that we want them to be. I mean,
They're going to
this is
go
a
over
team
their
that
win total,
it's going to be close,
What
right?
was it?
What was their win total?
86 and a half.
86 and a half. It's
After
going
the
to be
Reese
very
thing,
close.
no, it won't be that close.
I think it will.
I don't think it'll. Be that
I think
close.
with the lineup like this, it's going to be really tough to. I mean, they're going to make the postseason. It's probably going to be right around what 86 to 87 wins. I would say maybe 88. But yeah, I mean, when the lineup's underperforming like that, and you only have one player in Brandon Marsh who has an 800 OPS,
they're
that's
on
got to be
pace-
underperforming.
they're on pace for 87 and a half wins right now. That's including the 4-9 that they obviously started the season with, and they haven't had a stretch really like that since. So if you take, since then, you take what they've been, and that's 55 and 38. Or no, I did bad. I did terrible math there. Terrible math there. 55 and 42. So obviously, that's 13 games over 500. You play at that pace, you're playing at a 93 win pace. I'm not saying they'll win 93 games. I think they win 91. I think they win 92, which is more than they won last year. And it's going to be, I think, well over their win total. So that's my opinion on that. They still have the most home games remaining. They still have the easiest schedule remaining of the wild card teams. They have the fourth best record in the NL. I think like the 8th or 9th best record in baseball. I don't think
right. It's not all bad. I'm not trying to say it's terrible.
and I
but
think-
this lineup should be performing much better than it has.
I
It should
think-
be a top 10 lineup easily. And
I think if it was the lineup is underperformed, I don't have a problem with that. But I don't think the team is underperformed as a whole if you're 13 games over 500 since April 12th.
if you add everything together, I would say yes. I mean, you can't just take away the first month and a half.
No, 13
of it.
games. 13 games is like a week, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. I think they started 4-9 and they're 13 games over 500 since then. So that's what I keep coming back to. I was as mad as anyone when they were 4-9. I was as concerned and frustrated and saying this is building yourself a hole that's going to be annoying to get out of. And we're probably not going to get any of the respect if we have a good streak.
Right.
Which I think exactly what's happened.
Yeah.
They've been the second best team in baseball since June 1st. They've been a top 5 team in baseball since April 12th. Like they've been a top 5 team in baseball for 90% of the season. But they went 4-9 to start the year. So they're playing catch up all year.
Yeah, they've been trying to play catch up. And at least it's me looking ahead in a way because the pitching has been so good, but you're not winning with the 18th best lineup in baseball. You're just not doing
But
that.
part of
I don't
that-
care how good the pitching is.
So the thing
Like, this
I'd
is
say,
the lineup's bad. It's not good. It's very bad.
there's some stats that would have them at 15th, 16th. It depends if you're looking at WAR, OPS, WOBA. It depends what you're looking at. But
Yeah,
no
and-
matter what, they're right in the middle. And what
Right.
I'd say to that is Bryce missed a month and a half. Bryce has had absolutely no power. Trey Turner's had
And he's
the
not
worst.
going to have power.
I disagree with that. He's had more power in the last month. than he
still,
had the
but it's
first
not going
three.
to be. It's not going to be what he's used to. Though.
Maybe he's not a 35 home run guy, but if he's a 25 home run guy, that probably bumps them from like 15th to like 10th, like 11th. I think that's a pretty big, massive gap. And every time someone gets hot on this team, we've seen it, like Schwarber in June, it rides the tides. They were a top 5 offense in June. So it rides the tides when someone gets hot. And I do think we have a good amount of guys. We saw JT for 4 months last year be a 1,000 OPS guy. We've seen Kyle Schwarber have these huge months. We've seen, how did this turn into Phillies? We were supposed to talk SummerSlam. And we've seen Bryce Harper obviously be Bryce Harper. And even the last couple, I think the last week, he's probably struggled. But he had a 2-week stretch before that where he was hitting home runs again. He was hitting for doubles again. He was hitting the gaps again. And obviously, you look at his clutch numbers, he's been unreal.
He's been very clutch.
So I think you probably add a little bit to his non-clutch numbers, take a little bit from the clutch numbers, and his power comes back even 50%. I think the offense concerns are a little bit lessened, but obviously it's going to come down a lot to Trey Turner and what happens with Trey Turner the rest of the way. He's an important piece.
Turner, Schwarber, and Castellanos.
But the Schwarber thing, and I know you're not as far gone on Schwarber as
I love Schwarber.
As Sean Brace.
No, I love Schwarber. It seems like a down year for him.
Down year for sure, but the thing I'd say, the defense hurts him because him having to play as much defense as he has is brutal, and that's going to hurt his, the way he's looked at because he's terrible at it. He was signed to be a DH. He's going to hit like 3 less home runs than he hit last year. He's going to walk about 30 more times than he walked last year. He's played every single game. He's just hitting less singles. He's actually going to have more doubles and triples. He's just hitting less singles. Like that's in terms of the pace that he's on for, and it's hurt his OPS. His OBP is better than it was last season, which is insane that his average is 40 points lower.
I would imagine his slugging is very down.
It's down by about 40, 50 points, down by about 40, 50 points. But that's
because OPS is still in the 750s, and when Kyle Schwarber's on, he is a very low. He's like an 815.
Yeah. I think last year he was 810, 820,
I would
something
say he's
in that
usually
range.
around there. Which that's a big drop off, and I love Bryson Stott. Bryson Stott's been amazing, so I don't want to say that he's a problem. He's not the problem, but he's not Bryce Harper when he's on. He's not Trey Turner when he's on.
He's a pure hitter, but
pure hitter. That's probably going to be just under an 800 OPS. And I'm like all these marks. I'm not saying that means they're bad. Bryson Stott has obviously turned out to be a very good hitter, and in a way, probably is going to improve. But it's just not. They need Turner. They need Schwarber. They need Castellanos. And look, Castellanos may be getting better. I think it's a bit of. He said batting practice. At least last night was batting practice.
And even if
that
it's
guy,
not,
Jordan Lyles is terrible.
He's awful. It's a joke. That's been the most concerning offensive night of the year.
Castellanos was a cookie.
It's the most concerning offensive night of the year. But the thing about that, we don't need all of them to be hot. Like Castellanos was terrible in the postseason last year.
He was not good.
Terrible the whole year.
Right,
Gene Segura, who Trey Turner's replacing, was awful.
What you had was Bryce having one of the most historic postseason runs.
And you had Schwarber playing well. You had JT playing really well.
Reese Hoskins.
Reese Hoskins
was on and off. He was on and off.
But he was so huge when he was huge.
Exactly.
Yeah. And he was good in September. So those are the things that help out there.
Yeah, he came up with some really big home runs. But yeah, he was kind of on and off. It was really, honestly, Bryce and Schwarber mostly, but Bryce carried them. It was unbelievable to watch that.
The lack of power is concerning. I will say, if you took out the 4-9 start, I think they're probably like 10th or 11th in offense. And I know you can't just wipe the 4-9 start clean. It's not a different ball club. I'm not saying it is, but I do think it's worth pointing out. Like no one's arguing that I think they were like 30th in offense the first 2 weeks. I remember because they had the 2 straight games they got shut out. And
I think even in the past month and a half, they've been. At least I know in July that they weren't good.
I think they were like 21st or 20th. Yeah. But I think if you looked at it since those first 13 games, they're probably top 10. But
I mean, I guess what's fun about this argument is like there are a lot of things and a lot of months that you go, oh, they're great. They're amazing. And then there's a lot of months you go, oh my gosh, this is terrible. They are just an odd team.
They are.
Overall. They're odd.
Even when they're terrible, besides that first 4-9 stretch, they're going like 500 in that stretch. Like they're finding ways to win games, like the resilience. Here's where
I would love to see finally, you put all that money in, you have guys that are, I think, elite talents. I would like to see him, be however many games over 500, like the Dodgers or the Braves.
Those are the only 2
in the American League. But the Phillies are spending money to be that. And I want them to be close to that. And, it's not that they're going to miss the walk. I'm with you. They're going to make it. But, I would not like them to be fighting, a game or 2 away from missing a wild card spot.
No, I totally agree, and I totally understand.
They're such a Schwarber-led team.
The thing I'd say,
Schwarber's been that way his whole career.
The thing I'd say is the reason that the NL is having less of these teams because it's so much better, deeper in terms of like there's so many more teams competing than there are in the AL.
I would
So
say
there's
the middle of the
middle's
pack
better.
is a
That's-
little
yeah.
bit better than the American League.
And the seller's not as bad. We don't have Kansas City. We don't have Oakland.
Right.
So there's these teams that are getting free wins in the AL. And to the payroll concern, obviously not where we want to be. But look at the other top teams on the payroll besides the Dodgers, San Diego, the Mets, the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetting another one
Well,
with a high payroll that hasn't been
That
very good.
is, I hate to say the concern, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples of teams underperforming based off of how much money they've spent. And
But
that can be troublesome.
I think sometimes Phillies fans need to have a little perspective and look at those situations and be like, oh, it could be so much worse.
Oh, absolutely.
It could
I
be
agree.
so much
I
worse.
agree.
Like,
It could be completely terrible.
and here's the other thing I'll say, and this is about the
It could be the Mets.
resiliency.
Let's just say it.
Yeah,
It could be the Mets.
exactly. This is the thing I'd say about the resiliency point that I brought up. Like people always say, like, oh, it's not why they lose games, it's how they lose games, and the Trey Turner booting the ball, and that's so frustrating. But those people aren't the people looking at how they win games too. Like Castellanos hitting that home run in the ninth. Like
Harper's been clutch.
Harper's
Bohm's
been
been
so
clutch. Bohm's been very good in those spots.
they've been the
With runners in
second
scoring position.
best team in baseball in one-run games.
Yeah.
Like so they might lose.
That
some of
has
these
a lot to do with
frustrating games.
bullpen too, which is amazing.
Of course.
And Rob Thompson has a big hand in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you and Nick Picone. It's funny. Jeremy was expecting me and Nick Picone to go at it. I should have had you guys on at the same time. And you guys could have yelled about Rob Thompson. For 5
Oh, he
minutes.
doesn't like Thompson?
I think he goes back and forth.
He's
It's-
okay.
It's half shtick, but you know, I love Nick, by the way. But
Nick's
I think he's not saying fire Rob Thompson, but I think he gets frustrated with some of the decisions.
I think they're where they're at now and able to overcome a lot of the lineup issues because of Thompson. I think Thompson is helping out with the pitching staff and bullpen. Look, it's a talented pitching staff, but I mean the way he's handled the bullpen, it's pretty spectacular. I think. Obviously,
He's been a good bullpen
you're going to make bad moves.
Yeah.
It's not that every single game Rob Thompson's going to make the best moves, but I think overall he's been fairly good at it.
I think he's been an average manager this year, to be quite honest. I think he's been average, and I think the guys love him. So if the guys love him, I think that's at least half the battle.
Well, to a certain point, because a lot of the questions come with the lineup. Well, why aren't you guys moving things up and down? Well, because everybody's not doing well.
And their record when Schwarber hits in the leadoff is way better than when he doesn't.
It's good. And they the beginning of the year they put Bryson Stott in the leadoff spot and he was terrible.
And my
not to
whole
say
thing-
he's better. He's probably a better player now than he has been, obviously, but it doesn't automatically mean, oh, well, he's better now, so just move him up to number one. It doesn't work like that.
And if you didn't have a problem with Schwarber batting leadoff last year, then you shouldn't this year because the OVP's better.
Yeah.
The OVP's literally better. He's, by the way, in the same amount of plate appearance, like he's reached 500 walks, or not 500 walks. It's a higher number.
That'd be amazing.
No, I think it
Could
is
you
5.
imagine?
Not this year. I'm saying
Right,
in
yeah.
general. He's reached the amount of walks he's reached at this point of his career faster than Barry Bonds did at Barry Bonds' point of his career. And Kyle Schwarber's walk rate this year is the best of his career.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
he's an ungodly walk guy.
It's
and this year is the
amazing.
peak of
It's
it.
amazing to see that because Bohm has been very good, but the problem is like and so his OPS is only 20 points higher than Schwarber,
Nick
and we're thinking
doesn't
of
walk.
Schwarber struggling, and they're really not that far off. You know,
Nick doesn't walk. Bohm doesn't walk.
No.
Trey doesn't walk. Rojas.
See,
or
what
whoever's
helps
been
what
playing
helps
there
Stott
doesn't
is
walk.
Stott is such a good contact hitter.
Yeah.
And Bohm is not quite. Bohm can be. Bohm for stretches can be a great because I think he's in one of those stretches right now where his average is like over 300,
Batting
like a
average warrior.
348. Yeah, 350. And that can work if you're doing it like Luis Ariz, where you're doing it at such a high rate. Yeah, your OPS is going to be good, and it's really good in the last like 2 or 3
Once you're
weeks,
hitting
I think.
270, well,
But yeah, but Stott is so consistent, more consistent that he's going to be, I think a more valuable player.
And one last thing on Stott and the Phillies, because we do have to get to SummerSlam. But one last thing on Stott, I will just say, his walk rate is not like it's really low. It's not what you'd think it would be at all. But when you watch him, he's so good at working counts. He's so good at working pitches. Like he sees a lot more pitches than anyone but on the team. But
this
Kyle
is
and
truly
Bryce.
a guy that's going to be fighting for like batting crown for average.
But I
best
also
average
think
titles.
in the future we'll see him walk more. Like I think right now
that'll come.
He's seeing so many pitches and he's been so good at hitting with 2 strikes. Eventually that will translate. To
Yeah,
him
I don't think
walking
he's ever
more.
going to be a high walk rate guy. I mean, especially in the way Schwarber is.
Not like
But
no, not like
it's
that.
Gonna get high enough where his best years are probably going to be, his on base percentage is going to be a little bit higher. He's going to have a 300 average, but that OPS is going to follow. I think his best year is probably like 815, 820 OPS. And I'll take that that's a homegrown guy giving you that type of numbers. That's great.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely. So let's get to SummerSlam. Jeremy's chomping at the bit. This WWE shill, Jeremy over there, is
so
chomping at the bit to talk
I watched
about
AEW
something.
last night.
Did you?
Really?
Why did they throw on
I didn't watch.
brawl. It was like a garage
Wait.
brawl with like a bunch of cars on a
I
random
saw
Friday
Moxley.
night.
Didn't
AEW
Moxley
It was
like
so
stab
weird,
Didn't
yeah.
Moxley
What is that? What is that? Rampage, right?
The-
collision?
The Collision Saturday. I think it's Rampage.
You're
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
that
You're
is
right.
the
You're right.
It was
worst
such a
show
It's a
that they
1 hour
have.
show,
Yeah,
right?
it's
And they
weird.
recorded. It was so random that they threw it on there. It was like this. These guys are like
When
getting beat up pretty bad,
Mhm.
and then for what?
Yeah.
You know,
when did Dean
I don't know.
It's main event.
when did
It's main
Dean
event every week.
Ambrose stab
it feels like
Antonio
main event.
Cesaro in the head? When did that happen?
Wait, what'd you say?
When did Dean Ambrose stab
When did
Antonio
that happen?
Cesaro in the
no,
head?
they were on a team now because he's in the combat club.
Wait, what did I see?
I don't know. What
I
you
thought I
What did
saw
you
some
see?
gif on Twitter of some crazy violent thing from AEW this week with Moxley and Cesaro.
said. Oh,
Moxley and Claudio, I should say.
Yeah, Claudio.
I was using the WWE names to be funny, but
Yeah.
all right,
Sorry, I
let's-
sidetracked us again.
yeah. So let's talk about Cody Brock first, because I know Jeremy's chomping at the bit to talk about Cody and
It's
Brock.
Cody, right?
Cody's gonna win.
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
He
Cody's
bet-
gonna win.
by the way, Cody better win tonight, and if Cody doesn't, then Jeremy's rant he's about to go on is dumb.
Oh yeah, no, Cody. This entire feud has still been great, and Cody Rhodes, I think it proves that him losing at WrestleMania was
Nah,
still the
you're
right call.
absolutely
still the
incorrect.
right call.
Absolutely not.
I know, but this feud has still been really good,
I know.
and people hate it just because they want to hate something because it's WWE.
Ah,
the
my
feud
Oh, people
has
hate
actually
this feud.
this feud.
Well, I think people are mad. People were mad immediately that instead of Cody going after the belt again, that they were sidetracking
right.
him
So
with
so
Brock.
from the start, they haven't given it a chance, and it's
Think
been
about what you just said there. Sidetracking him with Brock, one of the biggest
But I
attractions
think people were,
WWE has had.
people were nervous
That he
it's
wouldn't get
gonna-
back to the
that
title
he wasn't
picture.
going to win the feud.
But this is
But if he loses tonight-
because Brock Lesnar's won
Every
they
feud.
make him win everything.
So that's the point. I think people were nervous that every time we see this happen where someone's put with Brock,
I love that
helps Brock
tension
win
though.
the other
Is Cody
person.
gonna win?
it makes it look good.
Yeah,
That's how it's supposed
there's a lot
to
of stakes
be.
to
I
it.
like the tension if it works. If
Oh,
he
yeah,
wins,
It's
if he
going
wins the
to.
feud,
It's
I
going
like the
to.
tension.
Yes,
It's going to be fun.
He's
They're
gonna
great.
win.
By the way, I'm probably the most positive guy on Brock in this room. Like I
Yeah.
love Brock, and
Oh,
I
yeah,
think he
you
can
are a
be
Brock
used.
guy. Yeah.
I think he can be used valuably. Like
Yeah.
I think he's a valuable asset, but he's a valuable asset because when you go over him, it's supposed to be a big deal.
And it
And
will be
It better be.
when
And if
Cody
wins,
Rhodes
it will
does
be.
it tonight.
I
It's
agree.
gonna
It's
be
gonna be
SummerSlam.
it's gonna be a big moment. It's a big moment for Cody. It's him
It's
fighting to become
it's a big
the
deal.
champion.
It's a big deal beating Brock.
It
Lesnar.
is.
It's a
It
huge.
is.
I agree. And if he does it, then it's great feud.
I
and
want to
it's
see
great
it
work
real
by
clean
AAA.
though. I want to see
Agreed.
it real
Agreed.
clean.
Can't be a
There's
backslide.
No,
no
Can't be
stipulation
him.
either.
Can't be him as he's in it. Brock Lesnar has him in that submission hold and he pins.
And he
None
pins
of
him,
that.
yeah.
None of that.
He needs to look
Beat
strong
him.
still.
Beat him
Yeah.
clean.
And I think he will. That's what they.
I think he will too.
Dude, because if they beat him clean in the first match, what is this all about? Why would Cody want to do a second match? You know what I mean? It makes a good story, and now you can get the clean pin that you're waiting for at SummerSlam.
And then
the
Cody
second
Rhodes is
big-
long enough to take
So we're
on
all-
Roman Reigns if he doesn't lose.
Real quick,
Yeah,
we're actually
the
gonna
real
make,
tribal
we're gonna
chief.
make predictions on every match real quick. So we're gonna be
Do it.
rapid fire. We're all Cody.
all Cody.
All Cody.
All Cody.
Yeah.
Let's go to the women real quick.
Oh, this
Oh,
one's so tough.
so good.
Well, first Shayna Ronda. I know we're not in love with the MMA thing. They usually don't do a good job. I would
I
say
know they don't do a great
on-
job, but this.
on NXT the fight pit stuff has been better
Mhm.
than
So they
some
could
of the
have
past.
it down. Yeah, I mean, I did like whenever they did that on Raw. I thought it was okay, like it was something different.
Mm.
But I always am very
Yeah.
hesitant to get all in on this match.
But,
But
I think the
I would
feud's
say
been really
Shayna.
good.
The feud has been good.
Feud's been really good. Shayna's been awesome. I'm all in
Yeah.
right now on
She's becoming
Shayna.
a star.
finally,
again.
She's
finally
becoming a
looking
star.
like she was like that in NXT where she was just a
Well,
butt kicker.
She
I
had
was
a
at
run
the
in
Olympics,
WWE,
she's
but
back to that.
COVID ruined it. She had a run going in WWE, and
I was
COVID
at-
ruined
I was
it.
at the last live pay-per-view before COVID in Philly Elimination Chamber where she dominated the chamber to win
Yeah.
and she was supposed to go face Becky. And then once they got to COVID, they got to the Thunderdome, they turned her into a vampire and she started
Oh,
eating
so bad.
Becky's neck. It was the weirdest thing they ever did. Vince must have had a weird week that week and got into like Twilight or something. But and then the other, so we're all Shayna. Apparently
Yes.
the rumors Ronda's taking time
Ronda's
off.
apparently supposed to be
Yeah.
leaving, so I think Shayna is becoming a star and is going to win.
Charlotte, Bianca,
This one's
Asuka.
This is a
tough.
banger.
Bianca
in my
needs
eye-
to be a heel.
In my
Turn
eyes,
Bianca heel. Put her with Lashley in the Street
I
Profits.
hate to say because I mean Charlotte and Bianca, you could put on either of those and be fine, and they could just give Charlotte title again and everything's good. But I don't know if any of them really have, especially Charlotte, have momentum right now. I think Asuka.
Asuka has the most. I think Asuka should win. Did you guys see her promo last night? They're starting to do more Japanese promos, and she's just going crazy in there, and they have subtitles to see what's going on. But it's a whole new
I
They
didn't see
should have
element,
always been
and
doing
it's
that.
so good. And they're having Asuka and Io Sky have programs together where they're speaking Japanese to each other and they're going crazy at
Everybody
each other.
has subtitles on
So
anyway.
good.
Just
It's
use
so
subtitles
good.
for those
Asuka
programs.
is having this is her best gimmick she's had in WWE, and she's killing it.
People
Yeah, I
aren't
think
gonna like this. I don't care about Asuka at all.
That
It's
is
just
a
she's a great
ridiculous
wrestler.
take.
She's a great wrestler.
That's a
nuts.
ridiculous.
She's a great
take.
wrestler.
She's interesting.
I don't find her interesting at all. I don't
Do you
think she
find
has.
Charlotte? And I think she's way more
Absolute-
interesting than
Charlotte's not interesting right
Charlotte's-
now.
Right
Charlotte's
now-
the
right
greatest
now.
women's wrestler of all time.
That's
Yeah,
fine, but
great.
right now, I don't
Great.
think
Right now,
interesting
she's
at
not
all.
interesting.
That alone is enough to be interesting to me, to be the greatest of all time. That's more interesting to me. And by the way, this isn't just some like me not liking Japanese. I'm all in on Io Sky. Push
Sky's
Io
great.
Sky to the moon.
Well, that's the
she's
thing.
interesting to me.
Now
like,
imagine her
Io
and an
I
Asuka
love her
feud.
character. That'll be fun. And Asuka's an amazing wrestler. I'm not taking anything
Yeah.
away from Asuka. I just think Io Sky is like immensely more interesting than Asuka to me personally. But I think you can't take a women's belt seriously until you give it to Charlotte Flair. She's the greatest women's wrestler of all time. I want her to win the match tonight. By the way, I won't be mad if any of them win the match. I think it all makes sense for all three of them. Bianca,
I actually
maybe-
love. I agree. I do think she needs a heel turn.
I think she needs a
She
freshening.
killed that in NXT.
I love Bianca. I think she's probably like the greatest in-ring.
Extremely talented.
Is she the greatest in-ring worker right now on the women's side?
I think
It's her
I
or
think
Charlotte,
so.
probably. I think she might be a little better than
No,
Charlotte. I
she's
think
better than
Charlotte
Charlotte now.
overall is like a better character. And
Yeah,
but I think it's close. Bianca's incredible in the ring.
insane.
So we're on Charlotte. You're
Asuka.
Asuka. You're Asuka.
Asuka.
All right.
I'm going Asuka.
And we're all Cody. Seth Finn.
I have Finn.
I
have
I
two.
would say Seth, but they seem to be going all in on the Judgment Day, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me. I would say Finn.
They've been the main.
What
event
if
on
I
the-
I think you
say-
can move that title. around.
I don't know. I actually think it's like 33% chance for each three in my head right now.
That's
Like,
fair.
and by the
Are
way,
you doing the Money in the Bank thing?
yeah, I think Priest could absolutely cash in tonight. I think it's a very likely scenario.
Some turmoil
So
on the
here-
Judgment Day.
Here's my fantasy booking. I pitched it to Nick Pacone. I don't know if you heard it. I don't care who has the belt after this, but my take is Priest and Finn have to turn on each other in some capacity tonight and set up a Finn Priest feud to get Priest ready to be that main eventer. Whether that's Finn winning the belt and Priest cashing in, whether that's Priest costing Finn the belt and Seth keeps the belt and it's a Priest Finn, one of them turns face, one of them's a heel. But I think you break that up and
It's
you
definitely
make that
setting up for
interesting
that.
feud.
Yeah, it's
I
probably the most interesting part of that.
And I think it
match.
would help Priest a lot to be with a confirmed like main event guy and Finn, and you have that big feud breaking out of the Judgment Day, whether that be Priest taking over the Judgment Day, whether that be Finn taking over the Judgment Day and kicking Priest out. I don't know what it is. I don't know if Seth's leaving after tonight. That's the rumor, but I like the idea of making those two feud after.
joining Becky in Florida.
That's the rumor.
what
That's
I
the
think would
rumor.
be interesting is that if Seth wins,
I'll say
and
Priest, by the way. I'll
if
say
Seth
Priest.
wins and Priest cashed in on Seth, because they had a segment where they said, all right, Finn gets him first, and then Damian, you can deal with whatever happens after. And if Finn loses clean and then Damian Priest wins the title, Finn Balor's still going to be
I
upset
also-
about it, and that sets up some great stuff
Jealousy.
in the future.
You know what I love
I don't
though,
want them
even
to
more
fully
than
break
that.
you up yet because they're running Raw, and they are the best interesting thing on Raw right
If
now.
Priest comes in, cashes in, makes it a triple threat, and pins Finn,
That'd be
and then
nuts.
Seth goes away. Seth never lost the
No,
belt.
no, I'm gonna
That'd
love
be
it when
Seth
Priest.
comes
No,
back.
Priest is gonna win the next day on Raw or SmackDown or whatever it is. They're gonna do a celebration for Priest, and it's gonna be just like the 2 thumbs up Triple H gave Day or what was it, Randy Orton, and then
No,
2 thumbs
yeah,
down.
you're right, you're right, you're right,
Then
you're right,
2
you're
thumbs down, and then Batista,
Batista
ended up
gave the-
slamming him.
Batista gave a thumbs down when he turned
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah. But yes, that's what I see. I mean, because Finn's the vet. And Damian Priest, the new guy, he gets the
Mhm.
title, all excited. We did it. The Judgment Day did it. And Finn's like, no.
Battle Royal. Basically, my question is: does LA Knight win or not?
LA Knight's got to win something.
I mean, I don't think
He's
he
the
has
number
to,
one
but
merch
he
seller
should.
in the company
He's got to win something.
by double over number 2.
Let me rephrase that in a different way. Yeah.
Let me talk
Yeah.
to you. Did you guys see that promo he did on Hit Row
Yeah, that was
where he
good.
told B-Fab, you're
Yeah,
saying that the crowd's a little corny. I think B-Fab's a little horny. He's getting the Rock promos. Like he's
Yeah,
just doing
he
Dwayne
is.
promos. He's doing Austin.
I love
He
it.
is modern day Stone Cold. He's breaking out in an old age. I don't know if he's a worker enough to be a main eventer. Like I think his work's fine,
it's fine.
but the promos are
So good.
good. Like
You need
he's
to have him
so
on every
good.
single Raw or SmackDown.
He
He's
needs to-
good at sports entertaining,
He's
ladies
really
and
good at
gentlemen.
Sports entertainer,
and that,
man.
in my eyes, that's more important than wrestling.
People care.
People care when he's out there. You see that pop every time he comes out. He's been jobbed, and people still care. Like I'm all in on the guy. And then so what matches? Gunther's beating Drew, right? We're all saying Gunther.
Yeah, just because he has to do it to break the record. So
we have 2 more matches. I don't want to get sidetracked here, but what's going to be the match of the night? The most exciting match of the night is Ricochet and Logan Paul. I love this segment this week. You guys are going to go on and on about how bad Logan Paul is on the mic. The Samantha Irvin moment was the best moment on the show on Monday. The best moment on the show on Monday was Logan Paul saying, "And your girl is gonna have to announce me as the winner."
Ended it with the worst right hand in the history of wrestling.
That's fine.
Like, it's a dumb move.
It's not a great move.
And you know what? This is exactly why I don't like it, because they literally are billing this match. This is going to be the most viral match in WWE.
Whatever.
BS.
I don't know. It's gonna be fun.
That's all it is.
It's gonna be fun.
It's these stupid moments they're gonna set up to try and get viral, and it's not gonna go nearly as viral as Ricochet and Will Ospreay did in New Japan. They'll never be that. They want to be that, and it never will be that.
Well, that was a little even more gymnastic than what they're gonna do. I think it's still WWE.
But because they knew how to do it, Logan Paul.
That's not why. I think it'll be a lot more grounded because WWE has agents that aren't gonna have you do a million flips. Like I think it'll be an actual match with 4 to 6 crazy spots,
and they're all going to be worse than the next.
It's gonna be fun. Whatever.
That Royal Rumble moment is still one of the dumbest things I've seen in wrestling.
We'll see. I think it's gonna be incredible.
Oh, and then they actually topped it when they did the Spanish fly off the rope,
and it was amazing.
Botched it.
Whenever it got botched, it was amazing.
It was not.
He was fine, and it was amazing. It was an amazing moment. It went crazy viral.
I think it looked weird. It was fine. It went viral, but I
think it enhanced the moment that it wasn't done correctly. It was insane.
If that was done correctly,
putting his life on the line. People want to hate on him. I don't like him. I don't care about the Paul brothers. Like I never cared about the Paul brothers. Huh?
It's not good.
Whatever. By the way, I'm in the minority here in this room. I don't think I'm in the minority overall.
You're not.
You go listen to every wrestling podcast. I've been listening to a ton to prepare this week. Every wrestling podcast out there that's talking about current wrestling.
They love Logan Paul.
My regular podcast that I listen to are covering like old stuff. I'm listening to stuff about the 90s and stuff like that. But I listen to a ton to get ready to just fully ingratiate myself in the product. I'm not alone on this Logan Paul thing. He's
you're not.
Incredible
You're
work.
definitely on work. But what I can say about this,
who wins? By the way, you guys don't care. You guys are gonna go to the bathroom. But who wins?
Honestly, yeah.
Logan Paul's gonna win only because Ricochet failed this entire feud. He had his big opportunity, which I know we're not a big fan of Logan Paul, but people are interested in Logan Paul. Ricochet had his opportunity to have a big feud. His promos have been horrible.
Ricochet's a horrible
and they have proved
character.
Why he's been underutilized. He hasn't been. It's just that he's not good
on
the mic.
He has to do a promo with Logan Paul. Logan Paul's a dud on the
mic.
No. He's been way better than Ricochet in this promo.
Logan Paul is I still think he's very bad on the mic. Ricochet is one of the worst. He calls him stupid every 5 seconds.
Yeah, Ricochet's worse.
It's bad. Ricochet's really bad on the mic, and I love him in the ring.
Exactly,
he's really bad on the mic, and I think he needs.
So you have 2 guys that are bad on the mic.
But
exactly,
I actually think the feud's
don't think
been
it was
fine.
a great idea.
I think Logan's been really good in this feud compared to every other feud he's been in. I think his mic work's been better in this.
The worst one was the Money in the Bank promo. He's sitting on top of the ladder. That was boring.
Yeah, that was brutal.
They put him out there by himself, and he completely failed.
But I thought his promo on Monday was really good this week.
I think he had that one good
one. I don't think I'm on an island. But last match, we need to do it. We're running out of time here. Roman and Jay. I left myself way too little time. I talked about it already. Jay is not the guy to end this 4-year odyssey.
No, it's going to be Roman.
Do you want it to be Roman, and do you think there's a chance they pull the trigger?
No, there's not a chance.
I agree.
Roman, I literally just saw Sean Ross Sapp, who's
putting our runs up.
He's fantastic.
He's fantastic. So he's a great reporter, and he literally asked, somebody at WWE, when is it going to end Roman run? And he says, whenever Roman bleeping wants it there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's literally Roman's call. Roman's not going to do it right now.
No.
There's still more to go.
You're on there.
I'll acknowledge.
We're acknowledging.
We're acknowledging you, Roman. By the way, real quick.
I mean, they've done the story enough justice. I would love to see Jay win it. I think it'd be great if he did. They're just not going to do it.
I wouldn't love to see it. You cannot give Jay the title. It needs to be Cody or Solo or maybe Seth. I don't know. I feel like them giving Seth the secondary belt. I mean, he could obviously be like far away from that eventually.
Story with that.
I agree. I think you could if you and Triple H loves Seth. I don't know if he's the right guy to do it with.
The story they're doing now is better. I know Seth could interject, but you would never interject Seth in a way that Sami Zayn was able to do it because he kind of just snuck in there and he was kind of not a nobody essentially when he went in there.
I think that the Roman story is going to be a little less
fully bloodline-ish now. Like
That
I
would
think
be
there
crazy.
there
to do
will
that.
be no, I
No,
don't.
it
I don't
would be
agree.
crazy to
By
go
the
away from
way,
that. It's
the
the bet-
bloodline existed for a long time, but before we got to the Sammy feud, the Roman matches were still amazing. Last
Oh,
year,
they're
like
always yeah, they're great.
2021, 2020, like early,
They're amazing.
like they were all really
But
good.
I don't.
And I think we could still have the bloodline be involved while also bringing in someone from outside of the bloodline to have a big feud with him.
No, because there's going to be a lot of fallout from this. Obviously, whatever happens between Jay and Roman, and it's just going to lead to more fantastic stuff all between them.
But it's either that Solo's getting the match soon, or that Solo's
Right, Solo.
being built
Yeah,
to.
Solo's the next one. You know, what does he do?
It's
And
because Jimmy. Are we doing Jimmy? Like, I don't think we're doing a
No,
Jimmy.
You're not
no,
going to
no,
want to
it's-
with Jimmy. No.
Yeah. So all right. So we talked it over there. We're all in agreement. It's got to be Roman tonight. We're putting
Roman
our ones
wins.
up. But
He
let's
can hold out for another year in my eyes.
Green Legion Radio at 1:00.
Yep.
Probably will.
We are pitching to Green Legion Radio. Thanks to John Jansen. Thanks to
Hello.
Nick McCone. Thanks to Jeremy. Tough Cover Country. Let's ride. Tune into the Summerslam watch party tonight.
It's the Marketer's Report today.